7 Mac 11s, about 8 38s, 9 9s, 10 Mac 10s. The shit's never end. You can't touch my riches, even if you have...
Hey lawn care legends, BJ here from TBL Property Maintenance, here in the Catch Pro shed with my main man Benny. Boom! What's happening, brother?
Booyah! New week, new topics.
Yeah. Very special event today. We had our first Australian guest zoom in all the way from Western Australia. Luke Smith, how are you, my friend?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Awesome. It's awesome to have you. First WA guest. Actually, is this our first Aussie guest?
It's our first Aussie guest.
Oh, well.
wow.
Hey!
No one can ever take that away from you.
Number one.
Well, thanks. Are you inviting me because I'm worth it, or are you inviting me because you want to make all your mistakes on this episode? You know, do me as a trial and then get the real good people on, you know?
Yeah.
Well, anytime we ever think of a topic or a guest, I mean, the American guests are a little bit different. We usually obviously have to tee them up in advance. But I think BJ and I were trying to say, like, you know, what are we going to shoot next week? And I think one of us randomly said, let's get Luke on. He'll be down. So I think I texted you right away, and I think you wrote back straight away, yeah, I'm down. So
Ben texted me.
I'm
He's
keen.
Like, yeah, Luke's in. Sweet.
I was facing a week of isolation as well, so I was like, man, anything. But that fell through. But I've set up. I picked the spot of my house right with my big black cock tattoo in the background.
I was admiring it.
I thought I'm going on Ben and BJ's podcast. I can't be too serious. You know, got to have some fun.
So for all the listeners out there, jump on YouTube and have a look at the BBC in the background. And once everyone's got their head around that, we can maybe get amongst it.
Yeah.
So, Luke, if you wanted to just quickly start by saying where are you located and what is your business name?
So business is Silverstone Gardening. And we're located, we're in Perth, obviously a long way away from you guys. And very, very different. Like, I mean, weather-wise this year, we've had the hottest summer on record. I can't remember how many days, but it's the most days above 35 we've ever had. And hardly any rain. And you guys are struggling over there with rain. So very, very different. But we're south of the river, quite a long way south, in a place called Port Kennedy, which is near Mandurah or Rockingham, if you've ever been to Perth. And so we do a mixture of sort of work. I think we'll get into that later. But we've been running for about 8.5 years. And that's about it, really.
Very nice. I have actually been to Perth. The only thing I can remember.
Oh, yeah?
The only thing I can remember is the crocodile park. And there was a big albino crocodile. So must
I don't even know where that is. Where was this?
I've actually been from all the way down the Valley of the Giants down the bottom, all the way up to Gambia in a in an old Hilux. It's a beautiful part of the country. I'd love to take my family there.
Going down that bit. Basically, unfortunately, if you're honest, Perth is probably one of the ugliest parts of WA, because when you go down south to like Bunbury, Busselton, Margaret River, beautiful forests, beautiful locations, amazing beaches, down to Esperance, some of the best beaches in the world, and they're like tiny populations. Perth is like, it's very practical. It's super nice to live in, but it's like over where you guys live. I've got a lot of family in like Tweed, Murwillumbah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. That's amazing there. That sort of country there, beautiful place, you know. And there's so many. I've been around Australia, so many great places, and Perth's pretty. It's really nice to live, but there's not much to remember if you come here on a trip, to be honest.
Yeah, we're about an hour north of Tweed now with like the new highways. I've always thought Tweed was kind of ordinary. The coastline is beautiful, and then when you go inland a little bit, but Tweed is Tweed
is boring.
Yeah, it's bummy. No offense to anyone who lives there.
The Tweed River, where it eventually heads to, that's quite nice, you know. Tweed's just a country town.
Sunshine Coast is pretty nice. The other way an hour is pretty nice, but
anywhere on the coastline is beautiful. Realistically, now just quickly, we talked about, say, 35 degrees, numerous days in a row. What is the humidity like over there? Because here, we wouldn't typically get, say, hotter than, say, 33 degrees, but it literally feels like you're melting. And people that aren't in Queensland they don't seem to understand, like, oh, that's not that hot. No. But it's like, I know that, I walked outside at like 9 o'clock at night the other night, and I think it was still like 27 degrees or something crazy.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
I've spent a lot of time in Queensland, and Queensland's worse per degree. So like 33 in Queensland's worse. What we found, like, we basically don't know what humidity is.
Okay.
Today's actually fairly muggy, but it's overcast. And so unless it's overcast, we get like summer storms. So typically we'll have a huge heat wave and then a massive summer storm for like a night or a day or something like that. So those days are humid, but you don't usually work those days because there's too much rain anyway. So you get this really dry, it's intense. But what I found with the 7-8 years I was out in the field is up to 35, you're actually fine. Because especially near the coast, there's a lot of breeze. You're doing half an hour worth of work, you jump in the aircon, you're all good. Above 35, and there's almost nothing you can do to actually help that. And you end up getting your machines overheating, like especially your whip sippers and stuff like that, because you leave them out in the sun and they just stop starting for whatever reason. You chuck them in the shade for half an hour, they'll get better. So we used to try and take, like, any day I was over 35, we'd do everything we could until it got to that temperature. And then we'd just say, hey, look, that's too hard. Let's all go home. But we've had so many days like that we've had to give a lot of guys days off, because we've been throwing them doing 20, 25 lawns in a crew of 2, and it's like 37, 38. And everyone's just getting roasted. And so it's been really tough managing people and not having them burn out and exhausted and feel like you're the worst boss in the world. But it's very different. It's very, very different. And if you live in Perth and you just get off the plane at like Coolangatta or Brisbane, it's like you walk out and go, this air is thick. It's different.
Yeah. It's like going from Brisbane to Thailand, like Phuket or Singapore or something. That's the feeling you get. You walk out and you're like, oh, I didn't know the air got much thicker than the stuff in Brizzy. But
it's exactly that.
It's pretty gnarly. But so earlier, before we switched to record, you were talking about staff, but we're interested in how big your crew is at the moment and how big are you pushing to get it?
Well, it depends on the day, because a big day for us, we've probably got maybe 12, 13, 14 people, including admin, not including me and my wife. So that's just employees. A quiet day would be like maybe 6, 7, 8. So it varies within there. So like if we're doing a huge mulching job at a commercial facility, we'll grab a bunch of casuals to help out, just move wheelbarrows and things like that. And so that'll be a huge day. But most of the time, we're probably sitting around somewhere in the middle of that, 9, 10, most days, something like that.
And are those employees, they are basically, say, full-time, or they at least work, say 40 hours a week, or are they still people that you're bringing in casually? Obviously, you have your core crew, or is that your core crew that around that 8, 9, 10 mark?
No, so yeah, good question. And this is a good point on vanity numbers, because a lot of people will brag and be like, oh, I've got this many employees. Well, for us, we have 5 people. Yeah, 5 people who'll be our main people. So we've got our main admin, and then we've got our main guy and these 2 people, that's Sue and Doug, they really run our business. And then we've got basically 2 crew leaders and 1 main casual guy who's doing about 40 hours a week. That's what the business is based around. And then we've got 2 part-time admin that help out. And then we've got a bunch of casuals who we call in and out. And so on a really big week, you may get some of those casuals doing full-time hours, just especially like after the Christmas break or something like that, we may have a lot of work stacked up. But we've found that model to be way more flexible. If you can find, and it's not easy to find, but if you can find really good staff who are happy to do 2 or 3 days, if you book them out for 2 days and something happens, you know, someone gets sick or whatever, you can just call them on and they can fill in that 3rd day and they're happy, you know.
That's whereas what I was if you have ask. How you find those? Is that do you use like a job agency, or is that all people that you've sort of networked through? And
we try everything.
Yep.
It's, you know, it is hard. So mainly we're using Seek to start with, and then we may run some ads on Facebook to promote that Seek page, to just try and get some more traction there. So maybe you're just scrolling Facebook and maybe somebody might go, do you know what? Yeah, I would like to do, you know, a little bit of work, you know. But the problem is in this industry, there's not many people who grow up and go, I would love to be a gardener to start with. You know, it's not one of those industries like a firefighter or, you know, whatever, where it's like when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, I'd love to grow up to be that. So the reality is all the good employees in this industry already have a job, basically. And you don't often have businesses, you know, with mass layoffs or something like that, where all of a sudden there's a flood of people. So you've actually got to try and convince somebody a lot of time to leave a job that they're already doing and move to you. And so putting a job on Seek, or even worse, on like Gumtree or just Facebook, like to a community group, the people you're going to attract typically are people who are looking for work. And if you're looking for work in the gardening industry, you're probably not very good. You know, just being honest. So it takes a really long time and a lot of applications to sift through people who, like, are you desperate for work and you just think that gardening's easy and, you know, they'll take anybody, so you keep applying for our jobs? Or are you actually somebody who really loves gardening and maybe you want to go to uni as well, so you would like to work 2 days a week? Or maybe you're a mum and you love the detail side of gardening, maybe not residential mowing where it's really physical, but maybe you're great on a hedger and you'd love to do 1 or 2 days a week worth of hedging. But, you know, like it's really hard to find. But ultimately, like I just said, you can't expect that there's people sitting out there without a job who are just going to be able to come in and fill your role from day one, you know?
I definitely agree. And I think it's one of those types of industries where, because you're working in a small business environment, it is just one of those things where, you know, out of every, say, 20 or 50 people, you do find a gem, like a long-term gem, who can see value in growing with a small business and then becoming, you know, some sort of lead hand or, you know, I mean, just imagine if you got double the size and, you know, the person who was with you from, say, early on, you're able to delegate a certain part of, you know, the new business to them, for them to, you know, they still work for you, but, you know, there's not a lot of room to grow in a small business for really, I'd say, what, 1 or 2 head honchos?
Pretty much, yeah.
I know in my case, I've got Rusty who works for me, and, you know, he's not the best at, say, either running a crew or even really organizing anything himself. Now, that sounds like a diss, but he knows it's true. I know it's true. But where we utilize him is, you know, sometimes he can spend a day a week literally just fixing our equipment. He knows all the nooks and crannies at the villages. If we need like a carpenter or a handyman's kind of task to be done, he can fulfill that role. So, you know, we sort of just keep him around. Even if I got no work for him, you know, we might say, okay, clean all the machines. And it's like, it keeps it nice and fresh for him. But a small business, you know, like, it's not like you can have 5 of those guys, you know?
No, exactly.
There's this really awkward period everyone's got to get through, where basically it's great when you're on your own, when it comes to getting work done, because you know that you're going to do it to your standard because you're you, right? And then when you have somebody who is with you, you can look at them, you can sort of tell them what's going on, like an offside there all the time. The hardest thing to do is when you get someone like a Rusty, right, who's got a lot of strength. Because I've heard you talk really positively about Rusty. Like you've told me in the past, he's got like really good attention to detail, really good work.
Yeah. To the point where it's like overdone.
Like, so I just want to quick sidebar, Luke. We just did a demo with Right Mowers for the guys over at Cox, and I was on this machine for a couple of hours. No filming or anything. I left. Rusty did say like 6 hours on the machine. I sent him a quick heads up saying the rep is coming back. Can you give the machine a quick blowdown so that it looks presentable? When we film it, won't look like rubbish. Now, I'm telling you, this machine did like 6 or 7 hours of non-stop work, and we've still got wet conditions and everything like that. I've rocked up, and as soon as I walked through the gates, I thought, well, there's not as much work done here as what I thought. And I've glanced over this machine, and this machine is like, you saw it. It was mint. And he's like, I just gave the machine, I gave the machine a quick wash down, and I was like, no worries, cheers, Rusty, thank you. How do you get mad at that? And so what I was saying is, when you're in that middle stage, one of the hardest things is you've got somebody who's great at some things, and if you were a bigger business, you could just give them those things. But you actually need all-rounders, and all-rounders are even more hard to find, so, this is one of the reasons why people have such problems going from, solo owner operator, maybe one offsider, to 3, 4, 5, because hardly anybody makes that transition. Like getting up to 5 or 6 is really rare in this industry. And the reason is that, no, you're right. Continue. Sorry.
I was saying the reason is that you got to find 5 or 6 people who are all rounders, generalists. They can quote and talk to clients really well. They can do really good jobs. They can maintain equipment really well, and they're smart, and they, I guess, good team members. And you're asking a lot of one person. Just being realistic with who's out there and what you're likely to get. And this is one of the problems that I had early on, is I was putting way too much expectation on some of my crews to be fantastic. Whereas I had some guys, they rocked up every day on time. The clients loved them. They do good work. And then occasionally they break some of my stuff. And it's like, man, maybe I should be a bit more patient. And maybe I'm putting these guys under way too much expectation. Because like you said, how can you get mad at a guy for cleaning a machine too long? Yeah. But when you're stressed out and you got money problems and all that sort of stuff, you're like, I go, what the heck are you doing? Blah, blah. You just ruin a relationship on a bad day because you were holding these people to crazy levels of expectation.
Yeah. And just quickly on the all-rounder comment in terms of, what the expectations are, I just want to talk specifically about your business. Do you have, when you train guys or when you hire people, do they, obviously you would have some sort of leading hand, or say like a crew leader, but do all of your employees carry out all tasks, or do you have guys that only whippersnip or guys that only hedge? What's your setup?
So we've got, so if you look at the main guys, the main guys are those all-rounder type people, right? And to give some context, now I've actually got my Seek laptop set up here. I can tell you in about 2 seconds. This year, we've had 122 people apply for jobs with us, and we've hired 2, right? And So it took us a hell of a long time to find 5 people who were those generalists. So they do quoting, they do equipment maintenance, they can show the casuals how to do equipment maintenance. They're the ones. So like a crew leader, they're driving the car. You've got an offsider with them. If they get to the site, if that offside is only good at edging, that's all that offside is doing. You know what I mean? But the crew leader's got to be that all-rounder who can rock up, talk to the client, explain why the hedge is looking a bit bad, fix the retic, that sort of person. And they're getting paid good bucks to be that sort of person. The casual's role is to be available and have a good attitude, and that's the sort of standard that we have for a casual. Be available. When you rock up, be really happy and friendly. Ultimately, your boss is going to tell you what to do. Just do what they say, because it's really hard. You're not going to find, well, you could, but it's going to take you a long time to find so many generalists who you can just leave your business to. And even within that, we've got some guys who are really good at retic and really bad at hedges, and some guys who are really good at hedges and really bad at using the zero turns, whatever. So
now with that many staff running around, how do you go about scheduling? Do you use an app? Do you use Jobber, ServiceMate? There's a fair few out there, but how do you make it work for you?
We use Service Autopilot. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that one.
No, I haven't. Have you?
Mate, I don't do any scheduling these days, eh? We just, so like, our business is so much smaller now that I do have anxiety because I don't have a diary for this year. All the jobs are in my head, and I don't even need to tell the boys what to do, just because it's larger site work. They'll either be, one of my workers literally doesn't go anywhere else, and then Rusty, say floats around, I don't even think, say 10 sites a week. So we just don't need, in our business model at the moment, we just don't need any scheduling. So,
and you might gasp, but I'm exactly the same. I don't have any scheduling stuff at all.
Wow. How many jobs are you doing?
It's all in my melon.
It's because they're
it's the big site life.
It's because they're big sites. So we do have scheduling within those big sites.
Yeah.
But it's stuff that, I've had my one guy at this one site for well over 2 years now. So he, if he hasn't got it in his head after 2 months, catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, tell us about your scheduling, pal.
So we are like the opposite extreme to you guys, which is there's no right or wrong, but there is no way we could do that with the amount of work we're doing. So Service Autopilot is it's American, like most of these are, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, to be honest, because it does bigger business really well, and it does smaller stuff a bit tough. So the way we do it is we got a system, and so we have admin. Our guys don't take any calls. I don't take any calls or anything like that. So if you call up, you'll call some of the admin. They'll book in a job into our system. So they'll say, hey, I'd like a job in Rockingham, and they'll say, yeah, we can fit you in this Thursday. I'll book you in. Our admin will write all the notes down, put it in the job. Our guys will rock up Thursday morning. On their phone will be a list of 10, 15, however many jobs, one or two if they're really big. And it'll have all the notes. So Mrs. Jones said she wanted a quote for lawn mowing and hedging. Here's her address. You bring out the maps, links to Google Maps, takes you right there. Automatically will schedule the most efficient route. So if you've got 15 or 20 houses, you just press a button, puts them in the most efficient order for your day. And so our guys, they just go to each house and they can see, I've got 25 minutes at this job to do this lawn mowing. I've got 2 hours at this job to do this mulching job, all that sort of stuff. So it's all in the system, and every job has after photos. Every certain jobs will have before and after photos. So any queries like that, And Doug, who's our lead gardener, who looks after everything, at the end of each day, he can, in 2-3 minutes, flick through, have a quick look at all the after photos and get a good idea of if that job was done properly or if it was rushed or all that sort of stuff. So we've got guys out there, no one's chasing after them, looking over their shoulder, all that sort of stuff. And everything is on paper. So when they clock in, it gets a timestamp. So they clocked in at 3:12 p.m. They clocked out at 3:32 p.m. And there's so many times where that sort of stuff has saved us, because we've had clients try and be manipulative and say our guys cut corners and weren't on site for very long. And the job before, there was a photo at 3 p.m. and they clocked in at 3:05, and Google Maps says there's 3 minutes travel time between the two jobs, and then they clock out at 4:12 or whatever it is, and they've got an after photo and the job's done. And the client's like, "Oh, you guys didn't spend enough time on site." And it's like, "No, we did. Here's all the information." And then they shut up and get stuffed,
Yeah, no, it's honestly, it sounds like a great system. Did you use any other scheduling programs before you settled on this one, or did you kind of just stumble across this, sample it, and say like, yes, this is working?
Did you start with a whiteboard as well? That's
No, we started with I had a massive mirror in my bedroom and printed out a calendar and just stuck each page to my mirror all the way down and just drew everyone's name on. I did that for about 6 months, and then I was like, man, I suck at scheduling and admin. This is where it was just me. I've got to find something. And I found Service Autopilot, and I have tried maybe 5 years ago, we tried a different one, but it wasn't. Service Autopilot was made by a guy who had a sort of Corey Ballard figure. His name's Jonathan Potoshnik. And
I won't be repeating that.
No, but he had I think they had like 8,000 regular clients or something like that in Texas. Whoa. So one of these massive businesses, and they couldn't find a service that would do what they wanted, so they just made their own, and then they sold it to other people. So when you get bigger, there's a lot of things that are really good in terms of communication between different employees on that system, but it's really expensive. I think the Jobber sort of service mate stuff, from what I've heard about it, makes more sense for an owner operator. It's basic. It does some good stuff. So
we currently have a local guy here. He's a mate of mine. He's been developing his own scheduling software and everything. It has cost him a fortune. And he runs a crew of like 16 regulars, and we're hoping that will come out probably sometime this year. So that'll be really interesting. But just quickly, now that you've given a little bit of insight to the scheduling and everything, what about the types of equipment that you're using? I mean, I'm assuming it's all, what we all use, but is anything brand specific, or is there any other unique pieces of equipment that you can run us over?
Well, we definitely use the Catch Pros that you can get on the Catch Pro website.
Everyone take a shot.
What are we doing? So in WA, we've got cylinder mowers.
Oh, mate. What are they?
Yeah, what is a cylinder mower?
Mate, look.
We got Lenny Lawler bloody probably having a heart attack right now.
I literally go past one lawn that's cylinder mowed on my adventures every day. Just one.
Does it look schmicko?
It looks beautiful. It's a beautiful way to mow a lawn.
It looks second to none. And I've got like part of my family, like cousins and uncles, and they all have cylinder mowers, and it looks like I've always said, like I could just take a nap on that bit of lawn. So I really appreciate it, but on a business level, I've just never been able to, even if I could have that business, I just don't know that I could ever transport and, I guess maybe just have the time Like, I just feel like I would need to be earning so much money to justify using a cylinder mower. But you guys do it all the time. So walk us through it. Maybe tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, you know, this is one of the things that you're really, I do love my numbers, if you haven't noticed yet. But a lot of people,
hang on one second. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's very rude. Shall we just because you've made that comment about the numbers, shall we just give everyone a quick plug as to what maybe could be coming out in the next couple of weeks? You're doing another episode with Gary Ashton. Give him a quick plug.
Yeah, good old Gazza. Me and him had a phone call the other day, and we were just shooting out some numbers and having a good time. And he was like, "We should do this in a podcast." And I was like, "I'm up for it." And we're going to go, as far as I understand now, he's running it, but he knows what he's doing. And we want to talk about knowing your numbers and hopefully giving some shortcuts to people who are getting into the industry for what to look out for and what to try and, you know, focus on, so that you're not, you know, 2 years in realizing that you've made a poor life choice, you know?
Yeah. Okay. No, that sounds great. And I'm definitely going to listen to it. Sorry, did you want to chime in with something?
No, I was just going to say, you and Gary can stick to the numbers and we'll stick to the BBCs and grass bukkake.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got some resentment towards you, BJ.
Oh, me? What have I done? Is it because I stole
Is it
because I stole your CCAD?
I didn't know what a bukkake was, and I had to Google it.
Google it?
And I've regretted that. I've regretted that decision ever since.
You know, Luke. This lady from the LMCA group. She didn't know what it was, and she was told to Google it. And then all you could see was a couple minutes later, the next comment was, my eyes. And I felt awful that, because my wife did the same thing. She didn't know what it was, and she Googled it. And when you actually do Google it, if you don't look at the image, the description is very disgusting as well.
It's right. Urban Dictionary really paints a solid picture of what a bukkake is.
Anyways.
All right, what are we talking about? Equipment or something?
We're talking about cylinder mowers. What were we talking about? Oh, you're talking about how does it work? Look, if you're talking about your numbers, basically a rotary mower is way more versatile. And probably a good analogy would be like a cylinder mower is probably like a Ferrari, and a rotary mower is probably like a Land Cruiser. And, 90% of the time you'd want a Land Cruiser, But for that fine finish and that amazing job, cylinder mower is just off the charts. I don't know why, but there's a culture over here that is in WA it's like if you're not got a cylinder mower, you're not really legit. It's sort of like you're starting out because they're super expensive. So a lot of guys starting out, they'll go down the rotary path, and ultimately a rotary mower, you got some sharp blades on it. It'll cut just as good pretty much as any other rotary mower. But with a cylinder mower, it really is, the more expensive you go, there are those, small improvements that do make a really big difference. So they're like $6,500 new to get one of these cylinders. They weigh about 160 kilos.
That scares me.
It's about the same as me.
Yeah.
I BJ for good $6,500.
Yeah, this is actually a good topic, because one of the main questions I get when people approach me about the SFC 30 is always the weight. Now you're saying yours that's 60 kilos more than the SFC 30. And I couldn't imagine turning one of those. Is it like using an old Bluebird aerator?
Oh, it's way better than that.
Okay.
Way better than that.
They got a real reputation.
Yeah, that's a shoulder cracker. That's a back killer, that one.
No, yeah, they're terrible. I did an acre with that once with a Bluebird back in the day.
Well, I mean, I did Scrub Road.
Yeah.
So that's 12-acre village, up and down gutters.
Wow.
12
acres.
So just quickly, Luke, with say cylinder mowing, does every property have to be up to a certain level to be like, you can't just take a cylinder mower on any property, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. We probably use it maybe at a third of our jobs, right? So you have to, it's really got to be cut every 2 weeks. You know, it depends on how quick it's growing, but it gets to a point where it's too long and it just won't cut the grass, or it would only cut sections of the grass. It's anything that's uneven. You've got this flat, heavy thing, it'll just tip and scalp, you know? So it's much harder you've got to have a nice flat lawn. It's really hard to turn in tight spaces. In open spaces is actually really easy. It's like if you're doing a big corner block, you're going to do that way quicker with a cylinder than you will with a rotary, with the HRU 216. But if you're doing like a tiny courtyard with like a tree in the middle, you're going to struggle with a cylinder. But the benefits, the reason why you do it is obviously the finish. You get this better quality cut, but you also get you get the stripes. You keep it. It doesn't get thatchy so quickly if you're maintaining it correctly. It's just overall better for the lawn. I mean, it's ultimately the sort of machines that they're using on golf courses. So it is that high level thing. But I think there's a culture here in WA for really shortcut turf. And, you know, our machines can cut to about, without modifying them, they can cut to about 5 or 6 millimeters. And, you know, a putting green is probably like 3, you know, like a really good putting green. So you're pretty much at proper putting green levels if you're cutting it that low. Most of our clients aren't, but there's no way you can cut anywhere near that with a rotary without just getting those semicircle moons everywhere and scalping the crap out of it, you know. So
generally, the types of turf over there, because what I see the biggest issue, you know, say in Queensland, is there is just a lot of there's a lot of weeds even in some of the best lawns. And obviously, you know, you need to do, you know, so many other tasks to get that ready. But in WA, like, is it the same, or is it just that those properties have just had heavy, you know, either man labor or chemical use to get it to that point? Or is there just generally not that many weeds in the turf?
No, there's heaps of weeds, and it's an all or nothing approach.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, the misconception is that the cylinder mower makes it look good, but the cylinder mower is the final step. You know, if you've got, like I said, uneven turf, or you've got those really long weeds, like I said, it's too long, it's not going to cut. And so one of the things that we're trying to go down is a specialized, like a full lawn care service, which we do, and we've always done. But we have these packages that we make them very expensive. Doug is a former golf course superintendent. So the guy running our team, so he's got a really high level of knowledge, and we're trying to get this reputation out in the industry as being this super high level of care and attention to detail, because people want that service over here, but they haven't had it fully explained to them, because it's not as simple as just cut, it'll look good, we'll come back in 2 weeks, you know. But we're trying to be a bit of a, like, honestly, if you're going to pick between one or the other, I would actually go rotary, because there's a greater market for rotary mowing, especially obviously over east. Yeah. If you go cylinder, not only do you have to convince the client that a cylinder mower is good, but you have to convince them to do all the additional services that are needed for a cylinder mower. Whereas in WA, everybody already knows a cylinder mower is good for whatever reason. And so you only have to convince them to do the additional services. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, in that regard, you guys would have a hell of a lot more maintenance than Fred with the rotary too. Like, you guys have to do all your backlapping, you know, you got to get all your sharpening done. And, you know, that's another added cost to, you know, that you have to pass on. But so a cylinder itself, so the MowMaster cylinder, the actual cutting mechanism, like there's a bottom blade and then there's a cylinder, and they touch each other like me and BJ touch each other when we're on our own. Yes.
Man.
They touch each other like scissors. So very gently, you know, not too hard, very gently, clean cut. So any separation between the two can you imagine using scissors that aren't quite touching? It just doesn't work. So we adjust it every Tuesday and we backlap it every Thursday. And so twice a week, you've got to sit there with a piece of paper, testing it out to make sure it's cutting like scissors. And we bought a brand new Mowmaster in September. So 6.6 or whatever it was. And Doug, who is like one of the most experienced people you're going to get, is cutting someone's lawn who had a pole, like a street sign installed, and he thought he had cleaned everything up. There was one rock hiding in the lawn. It squeezes it between the bottom blade and the cylinder, chips the cylinder, and that's $165 to have that sharpened. And that mower is not available for 2 days now. Yeah. And it won't cut in that spot anymore because there's now no more contact there. So he can use the mower, but he's got to mow the lawn twice because there's a strip every time, he goes over it. So it's a lot involved.
Yeah. I actually do believe that over here, east, I do think that cylinder mowing is going to become a big. Obviously, you've got Lenny Lawler and the Lawn Rescue Squad. They do all of the dethatching, and there's a lot of he has put a lot of influence on lots of other contractors that are trying to get out of that competitive rotary market and maybe try and specialize in some other niche. So I actually do believe, and don't get me wrong as well, there is a lot of homeowners that cylinder mow their lawn here. It's just in terms of people offering that service, it is like, I don't even reckon, I reckon it's like 5% of the whole market. Yeah. I do believe that we have the conditions. It's just that nobody has really, taken that step and said, I'm going to be different to everyone else here, and I'm going to offer a specialized service.
The good thing with cylinder mowing is it comes with so many goodies that you can add on. So your renovations, your irrigation and stuff like that. Is that you offer all those services in your packages, or?
Yeah, we do.
That's awesome.
So our packages, they're super expensive. So they're like thousands of dollars a year for clients. But we have another thing that we're a licensed spray business. So all of our crew leaders, or these ones have been with us for long enough to get trained, are trained up and they've got a license. And so you're talking pre-emergence, post-emergence, granule fertilizing and liquid fertilizing. You're putting down like preventative, like an acelepryn for your lawn grubs. There's grooming, which is like a light scarification. Yep. We do verti mowing, aeration, reticulation. So there's heaps involved. And so if you guys feel like the market over there is getting to a point where people are starting to want that service, then it would be a great time to jump on and grab those mowers and then really learn about turf care and separate yourself from the rest of the market, because you're the guy with the $6,500 cylinder and the $7,000 verti mower, and you're like, you've got the gear already. You're the specialist. Come and talk to me, and I can give you everything, and that's what we're trying to go down. So, but it's just an economies of scale thing as well, because over here, like, if you get a cylinder mower, but you've only got one job a fortnight, that's a very expensive machine. Yeah. But a $6,500 machine that's getting used for 4 hours a day every day is super cheap. Yeah. So it's just about someone over in your side has got to at some point take a real risk that we don't have to take, because we already know the demand is there. So,
it's the same when you buy a 61-inch whatever. Like you spend close to $30,000, and if that thing is only used like 2 hours a day, like you've really wasted your money. But if you're doing 4+ hours a day, you'll make your money up real quick. And just
and this is, well, I was just going to say, this is what and I'm not just saying this because I'm on the podcast, but this is actually what I think makes Catch Pro as a product so good, because the before we knew about Catch Pro, we had a Hustler 36-inch with the powered bagger on the back, right? And that was a great catcher, more capacity than a Catch Pro, but it makes the machine permanently wide. And we never used it residentially because it was so big, so long that we took it to our commercial jobs. We'd take all our other mowers off, we'd put that one on, and then we'd flip it around. But, you know, the idea of a stand-on with a Catch Pro actually puts way less risk on the business buying that type of machine because, yeah, you might have one commercial client that you might use it at for 3 hours a fortnight, but you also have probably 15 or 20 large corner blocks or things like that where maybe you do the front with a stand-on, you do the back with your Honda or something like that. And, you know, it's a much smarter business move than even buying buying a 15 grand mower and a $1,000 catcher is a smarter move than buying a $6 grand cylinder because, you know, straight away I've already got the work. There's no risk to go out there and try and find something that may never happen, you know?
Yeah, well, once the Catch Pro hit the market, I was lucky enough to be around when it first started. So as soon as I got involved, like, it just changed my whole business. So it was a good time for me. I definitely just business just grew from then. Like, being able to offer a catching service in Brisbane, that's something that, you know, I think that's one of the main
I mean, only dudes with walkers could really offer that service. And then really to piggyback on that further, they couldn't go and slash a vacant block.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they could, but you were definitely putting that walker at a high risk. And the walker product has evolved a little bit, you know, in the last 5 to 10 years. So they're a little bit more rugged and people are doing that. But in terms of, you know, stand-ons specifically, you know, we've got 48-inch stand-ons where we mow 10 acres at a time, but then we can also take them to our village and, you know, catch beautiful amounts of grass. And, you know, you're sort of utilizing that machine as much as you possibly can. So like you were saying, the risk is lower.
And I've got 2 brackets, so I can take my Catch Pro, my one Catch Pro, take it off my 32-inch stander, chuck it on my 48-inch Tiger Cat. And you know, it's split the difference, $500 each machine.
People are going to be absolutely sloshed by the time we get through this episode. Did you want to touch on?
So you were talking about numbers earlier. So we all know you're a numbers guy. We've all seen your content on LMCA. Some of it goes straight through one ear and out the other with me because my wife is the numbers person in my business. She's amazing at that. But I wanted to know, where did you learn all your business skills? Is this something you've gradually learned and now, like, you feel confident enough to put it out there? Like, you've tried and tested everything, or is this something you went and studied, or you just
are you just a fucking genius?
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a nerd. No, I made a hell of a lot of mistakes in the first 3 years. And really, I started my business when I was like 19, and a lot of ego. So made a lot of vanity choices. The first employee that I hired, which was a casual, I didn't need an employee, right? I could have just really thought about my pricing, and I had probably half of my clients underpriced, you know, and underpriced for somebody starting out, you know, because I was trying to charge 55, 60 in that ballpark, but some of them were underquoted. So I wasn't even making 55, 60, but because I was insecure and young and stupid, I went and hired somebody. And then 6 months later, I realized every single day I was hiring them, I was like losing, I don't know, $20, $30 or something like that. And just made a lot of dumb choices like that really forced me to go, well, either get this right or just get out, you know, because, you know, I also got married young. So I wasn't like, even though I had a business young, I wasn't a typical like 20-something-year-old guy who was just, I was trying to make something of my life. And so every bass I did, where I was like, damn, like, I'm not making as much as I thought I was. Like, I'm really struggling here. And I had all the vanity numbers. Like, I've got this many clients and I do this much work a day and all that sort of stuff, but I did not know what I was doing. So I had to sit down and luckily my granddad, who is an awesome guy, very patient, very good listener, he was an accountant. And so I would go have conversations with him and he would just sit there and listen and not say, hey, look, you're a bit of an idiot. He would be a lot more patient with me and then would work it out. And then I'd probably go, oh, I'm a bit of an idiot, and a much more helpful way of going about it. And one of my motivations for this is I would love to see people in the industry succeed. It doesn't bring me joy to see anybody, even competition, fail or go under. And a lot of it is because it's really hard to run a business. And if you're out there mowing lawns and taking calls and sending quotes, it's so hard to do that last actual accounting, making sure you're actually up to date with all your bills and stuff like that. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's, where do you even start,
Yeah. No, I'm finding that now. Like, I've gotten to the point where I'm literally just a laboring guy in my business. I've kind of shrugged off the responsibilities of invoicing and stuff like that. And I still liaise with clients. I still do all the callbacks and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just so deep in the labor side of things. I just haven't got time to breathe. But I have put someone on to become my leading hand. I'm training him for a month, so he'll know everything in and out. I am losing money because I don't have the work to support him at the moment, but I am buying a business that will eventually make that up and it'll become a lot more profitable. When I say I'm losing money, like, I'm basically breaking even. I have picked up extra work, but I just want to make sure that he knows exactly what he's doing before I give him the reins. But yeah, it's a hard decision, like, to actually let someone have basically a piece of your business to run. So kudos to you. You got a few out there, but I know you got one main guy. Like, hopefully he's probably the same as what this guy will be for me. He shoulders a lot of responsibility.
Doug sounds like a fucking top bloke.
Yeah, if he ever needs a job.
Cheers up.
All right. Now, can I just ask, LMCA people and Aussie contractors, they probably know some of this just because, you have been on other podcasts and you do some content to help the people. For the listeners that, are not on those pages, can we talk a little bit about the illness and condition that you have, or whatever you feel comfortable talking about, and how that has changed your approach to business, and how that affects you, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
So I got, and I'm overbooked with this. I'm not embarrassed.
No, that's cool.
It's I know people are a bit sensitive sometimes, but I'm all good. I have a disease. It's called ankylosing spondylitis. Just call it AS for short.
Yeah, it's probably
and basically
I won't be repeating.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even everything in this classification has massive freaking names. Anyways, I won't even go into them, but just call it AS. And basically, it's an autoimmune disease. I also have other problems as well, in degenerative problems. And the long story short is I had it as a kid. I had a juvenile version, and that caused some permanent damage in some of my joints. And then from 18 to about 24, 25, I had this golden period where I was no issues. And I was doing a whole lot of sports. I ended up doing like a bunch of ultra marathons and cycling through Africa. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. So I was super fit, healthy. And then about 25, 26, started going downhill. And it went basically September 28th, 2019, I ran 100 kilometers in 18 hours. And November the 11th the next year, so just over a year later, I couldn't do any more gardening. So I had to completely step out and my body just crashed. I planted 12 plants a couple of weekends ago and I was sore for 2 days after. and these are like just 14 centimeter pots. And so I knew it was coming because I was told in my late 20s that it's likely the disease I had as a kid would come back, like there's a strong chance. And that's one of the reasons why I really thought about my numbers, because I was really trying to plan to have something prepared. And that's what I meant by either get out of the industry or get it right, because, you're going to run out of time sometime. And so when I started feeling my back go bad, I was like, all right, I've got to start building this, and started marketing like crazy, started trying to hire people, and started building a team that eventually could take over when I wasn't available. But I shut down way sooner than I thought. So we threw a lot of people in the deep end, and it was a really, really tough, probably 9 months after I got out of doing the work in the field, because we had guys who just weren't quite prepared and all sorts of problems. And, hats off to anybody who tries, because unsupervised employees is such a different game. It's like, it's not even the same thing, even remotely, to running a solo operating business. You actually do almost nothing the same. You think about this, BJ, with what you're doing. You're out there on the tools, you're talking to clients, you're sending quotes, you're making your fun TikToks. And then all of a sudden, the only thing you're doing is making fun TikToks. Because now you're talking, you're someone's counselor basically when they have an emotional breakdown, and then you got to fire people, you got to hire people, you're sort of an accountant, it's just like, it's a completely different role. It's there's no guarantee that works out either. And so you've got all this change, all this risk, all this stress. And so, very tough year and a half, really.
Yeah, no, that's
now I'm fucking terrified.
Sorry.
It's pretty amazing what you've still been able to accomplish. And, I can relate to certain parts of that, in the sense that, whilst I don't have, a disease or anything, obviously I do have a back injury that, let's face it, I'm just not the same person that I was. And whilst I can, I could go and trim a 6-foot hedge or even a 10-foot hedge possibly, but there's no way I could do those sorts of tasks day in and day out. The daily grind would probably put me right back in that hospital bed. But look, I know that I look at it, and obviously for me it was one door closed and another one opened, and so that has been very refreshing for me. Has your new role been refreshing to you, or is it still, obviously no one would ever wish to have a disease, but there has been some positivity in terms of growth, and then taking on a new role sooner than what you may not have taken on this role unless you were forced to. Do you see any positivity in that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, the other thing is, if you didn't see positivity in it, you probably would just go and, hang yourself, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, and that maybe that was a little bit too graphic, but you get the idea. Because, I think there's going to come a day for most people where they go, what the heck am I doing? And if the answer isn't the best that I can, I'm doing the best I can, then, it's really tough. And I'm really blessed that I knew it was coming, because some people have some sort of accident, like I know you're talking about your accident on a different podcast, Ben. So I know a little bit about it, or your injury, sorry. If your injury had been slightly worse, imagine if you weren't prepared, and so I'm lucky that I was actually somewhat prepared and could make a plan. And this is, where we're at now, it's scary and exciting, because you have, like, for example, I was telling you guys off camera that one of our guys, our main guy, Doug, was a close contact to one of our other guys who was working with, who got COVID. So then he's off, and then Doug starts getting some symptoms. And so like, damn it, Doug's with everybody. So it's literally only one guy who also was a close contact who just happened to not work because he was a close contact and isolating. There's only one guy in our business left to work, and the admin team. And so we were like really worrying about that. And I didn't do any rescheduling. I didn't have any of those conversations. Doug and Sue's our main admin. So, you take Doug's great, Sue's fantastic as well. Everything's sorted. And it was like, what the heck? We just had a major crisis and I did nothing, for it. I had a couple of conversations, but I haven't been to site. I haven't actually been to our warehouse in 2 weeks. And that's partly because of meetings and stuff like that, and partly because I don't want to be a close contact. We're going to try and keep our rules over here are really strict and quite unnecessary in my opinion. But I'm trying to avoid that, and everything's running fine. We have a lady named Karen who I know some people find this crazy, but she calls every one of our clients the first time that they've had a job with us. And she asks, how was it? Is there anything we could have done? What would you give us out of 10? Right? I haven't done a job since, like I said, November 2020. And our guys are averaging as a business 8.94 out of 10 on all of our ratings.
Fantastic.
And we haven't had a rating under 7. Well, we've had 2 ratings under 7 in over a year. And one was a 5 and one was a 4. And they were just honest mistakes that people make, and we rectified them, and we went back and did that. And it's like you get this crazy amount of excitement, like, hey, our team just sorted everything out, and the guys, they go and do great work, and the clients love them and all that sort of stuff. And then you get days where it's like you have a 15 grand payroll bill and somebody who owes you a huge chunk is late on paying it, and you're like, damn, that's a lot. Like, where do I find the money for this? You got bad cash flow or for whatever reason. I was saying to you guys off air, we had a guy in January who was one of our crew leaders who turned out to be a functioning alcoholic and was drinking on the job whilst driving on his own and ended up stealing some cash. And so it's this roller coaster of like great, amazing things happening and terrible, stressful events happening. And, sometimes you don't know what to make of it.
You should bring in a new policy. Anyone who gets a rating of 4 ever again has to get a bukkake from everyone else that works in your business.
Oh, no. I don't know if that's legal.
No, it wouldn't be legal. No, all right. Well, Luke, everyone's time to get your whiskey glasses out because I think it's time to put a bow on this one.
Yeah, you didn't put me on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no,
I fucked it up so bad last time.
You cooked that last week. I'll just keep
I watched that.
You tell everyone to buy a skag quickly before we go, mate.
Yeah, everyone buy a skag.
There you go. Another one for the road. Luke,
and get a Defender rack too.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, and get a Defender rack too.
Oh, yeah. They're in stock, ready to ship, by the way. Luke, thank you so much for joining our show. No one can ever take this away from you. You've been our first Australian guest on the show. We had an
I'm
awesome
actually very
time.
proud of that.
Thanks, man.
And we're looking forward to part 2 on Aussie Lawn Stars. We don't exactly know when that's dropping, but you are filming that tomorrow. So I'm guessing maybe within the next week or 2. And hopefully. where can everyone check out your socials, mate? Do you do the social media thing, or is it more just a personal thing? Because I've seen some of your content.
Yeah, it's a personal thing. I mean, you can go on like Silverstone Gardening on Facebook or Insta.
I mean, that helps, right?
Yeah, that'll help. And for whatever reason, give us a 5-star rating. Just don't mention anything to it bukkakes because we're a professional business.
This business gives the best bukkakes.
Oh boy! All right. Well, thanks very much, Luke, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Aussie Lawn Stars.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Relax and take notes while I take totes of the marijuana smoke. throw you in the choke. Gun smoke, gun smoke.